Company values are always like a tricky thing in companies. I think especially in startups, when you first get started, it's hard to just invent them. They have to like come from somewhere. And I think the companies a lot of times do these processes where they, like the execs go in the room and they talk about things and they like try to like pick the values. But I think a lot of times the values end up being kind of not really connected to anything, and like people find it. Some companies do it well, but I think majority of the companies don't actually have like a good way of connecting them to the work. So with our process or my process, the way the values actually came to be, I was starting to think about this like presentation of many times on the offsites we like to start it with some kind of like a history of the company, partly because it's like there's always new people joining the company, but then also that I think that the story we tell ourselves is important. Like we get kind of every day we focus on the day to day, but we'd always think about like going back and like think about like where we came from and why did we get here. So the process kind of started with that. I was starting thinking about like what is the linear past, present, and future, and then I wanted to tell the stories like how did we get here? Like what have we been doing the last 5 years? And then when I started writing that story out, I started to think like, oh, there's actually like interesting lessons here that it's something that when startups grow, sometimes you have this tendency to think like, now we need to change everything we do. And then you might, because like you are tackling a new customer base, or the product has evolved or the company has evolved. So you have this temptation or almost like expectation that we need to change everything. But I think, like, again, that might be a mistake, because the success you've gotten so far has come from something you already did. And so then you should like recognize like what were the things that were successful and whatnot. So I think like I like it to start with the first value is trust. And I start the story about just like trust between us co-founders. Me, Jory, and Thomas, we known each other for maybe like 15 years. And with Jory, I had a startup before. And like when you have a startup with someone and you survive that experience, there's a lot of trust that gets created. So I think the first thing is that we all kind of trust each other. And that's like one of the key things in any kind of team or in this case, like team of co-founders. And like if the trust is not there, you're always a little bit afraid of like what might happen, and you spend more time thinking like, am I going to be attacked by something and like in our case, like the co-founders, we disagree at things at times, but we kind of understand like this is a disagreement of the subject, and it's not like disagreement of our like personal selves or like that there's a trust issue. And so, and then like when I started to think about that, it's actually the way we've been wanting to build the team from the very beginning, is that rather than hiring a lot of people and hiring a lot of managers that manage those people, we actually want to hire less people, and then we want them to want to trust them to do the work, and through them do the work in a good way or in the right way. And then to me, that's like the key or the foundation of everything we do is, and why we've been able to be successful with like fairly small team. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, what I talked about, that like we often are seen externally, and we talk about internally too. It's like we are like opinionated, or we have certain kind of intuition into like what a good looks like, or we have certain kind of taste into the product experience. And I think that's true, and that's needed. But then there's something that, to me, intuition is not something that it's not a magical force that just exists somewhere in the world and you either have it or you don't have it. I think the intuition is just your brain or your consciousness telling you something based on the experiences you had in the past. Like this, whoever, like if you are good at what you do and like you have seen a lot of different situations in your domain, I think you have like a better intuition. It's like what works and what doesn't, and you've seen that happening. So I talk about the intuition that it's a good thing but it's also something that can be trained. And that's something like we also did from the very beginning, that we had a certain intuition, like what this linear product should look like, how companies should build software. But like even before we start building anything, we went out there and asked our friends or people in the industry, is like, what do they think? We didn't go there to ask them list of things they want. We went them to ask like, well, what are you doing? Like, what are the problems? And then we use those interviews to see, like, validate our intuitions. Like, are the stuff we're doing resonating with people, even if we are not doing everything they want, but are we doing some of the things they want? So I talk about that. The next thing is about the customer focus of like keeping as a value, like keeping the customer in focus and using the customer, like talking to the customer and the interaction with customer as a way to train and keep your intuition in check. Because there's like a danger if you like just start building things just based on your own opinions. Sometimes they can be good, but sometimes you might just like go off. Like it's not just matching the reality anymore, or the reality of the customers. And the third thing I also talked about, like in the very beginning, we were very focused on what this product is and who is it for. So these kind of products, you can start them very broad way, or you can start them very like focused way. And what we did was we just told people what linear is. It's an issue tracking you will love using, and we purposely focused on the issue tracking because it matches the audience we were going after, which was more of the developers and technical people, and they understand what issue tracking is. Like people outside of technical fields, they don't know what issue tracking is, but it was kind of like a way to make sure that we're not getting users that are not really in our, at least in the initial audience, but like we get the users we wanted to have be in the initial audience, which are software companies and software developers. So the third value is purpose built. And I think there's a lot of products out there that they like to build this like very customizable platform that the customer and the user can like configure in many different ways to different kinds of workflows. And that can be like very like successful in a way. But like we just believe that you to order to provide the best experience, you have to be purpose built for something. So it has to be designed, like something needs to be designed for someone. And so we like to keep that purpose built in mind, that we are building this for the software companies and we're solving their workflows. And this is not, even though like the primary user is probably the developers and the technical people, but there still might be other people that are part of that company and process, and they should be able to use the tool as well. But they are not the primary use case, or that we are not solving the legal department's workflow needs. But the legal department might be part of the product workflows, because like sometimes companies need legal reviews on new features, like if you work in certain industries. The fourth value is about the quality, and that's something we've been also like talking about from the very beginning, that it's like, I think partly it comes from us like as founders and from our DNA, that we just believe that you should do things well and it's not worth doing them badly. And it's really annoying for us, like if we see things done badly. So part of it's just like comes from us as founders. But what we noticed that over the years we've been doing this, it actually is very beneficial, and it's like actually very rare to see companies focus on quality. And what that creates is that it does actually have a real business impact. And like if you just think about the different how customer buys the product or gets to know about the product, the quality can be one of those things that they like starts building that like customers in that journey. So example of how most of our customers today came to us, and they heard about us through some someone for somewhere. We didn't go after them. We didn't go do outbound sales to them. They found us. And I think the reason they found us was that someone was talking like how quality experience we are providing, not just in the product, but also in the sales process, in the like how we market ourselves, what our brand looks like, and also like how do we do support or assist the customers. So the quality, even though a lot of companies, I think, just keep up on it because it's not something easily measurable. Like you cannot have a dashboard like our quality is going up or down. You can measure some things, but usually the measure should be that, are we seeing signals that people believe that we are doing quality stuff? That's kind of like the validation of it. It's not, again, it can't be really like a metric, but like as a company, what you need to do is you first believe in it, that as the leadership or the founders need to believe in it, that quality matters. Then you try to hire people that also agree that they also agree it matters, and they're able to work in a way that they care about their craft and they try to like achieve that quality. And then you also build processes or like let the team processes to be in such a way that the quality can be achieved. Sometimes companies organize their teams in a way that kind of it doesn't incentivize quality at all. It incentivizes other things like speed of execution, like how fast we can ship, or like how much the metrics are going up. And then like if you incentivize with those two things, it can be people just forget about the quality. It's like it's no longer like one of the requirements anymore. Like if we do things fast and the metrics go up, that's good. But like the quality gets forgotten. So we just think like for us, the product quality is one of those core things, and like the way we've been successful and like continue to be successful. I don't think in this market we're in, we're not gonna win any other way than being the best product out there. And we also have to be like much better product than anything else out there. These kind of work tools or company-wide tools, there's often inertia to switch. And so people have to see the quality in all of the aspects of the company, but then also the product just has to be like much better than for them to switch. And the last value we have is the to inspire. So we think that from the beginning, again, we look at the software industry and we look at it in a way that like, how can we really like inspire and accelerate these companies that their software building? So part of it is like the tool itself, like how does the product work? But then there's also the processes and the mindset that you go into it. And we would like to inspire more people to think about the quality, and we're trying to like provide them ways to ideally like content or blog posts or like talks or something to like help them to like, this is how we think about it. Maybe you can also think about it that way. And we think like that's like for us, that one of the more interesting aspect of this company is that how can we are already supporting maybe like majority of the like a growth, like leading growth companies. And I think it's really motivating for me, and I think for the team to like, we are there to support them with their journey. And like ideally we don't only support them, but we also inspire them to be better. So that's kind of, all these values came like very, once I started working on this story, they all kind of came from these things we've been doing already. So once I talked them through and we shared with the team, I think it was like, people didn't have any surprises. Everyone's like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Which sometimes it's not like that, and sometimes companies come up with their company values and then everyone's like, what does this mean? I don't understand, like what is this thing even supposed to like mean, or like how does it affect me, or like how should I do things differently? So the kind of like the point with these values is like, even though as a company we always have to maybe do things a little bit differently, we have to evolve, the values should be always something that that's the way we do things, and that's all the important things for us. And we also think that all of those things connect directly to the success of the company. They're not like superficial values that I like these things, so that's why we do it. I think all of those things kind of actually connect to the mission of the company, which is to inspire and accelerate builders. So that builders could be small startups, it could be large companies, but both of them, like we want them to push forward. We want to help them push forward in a better way. And like I think these values are there to support that mission.